Hey!
Hello.
Alex Morgan.
Sure. How come you're not giving her candy?
Headbutt your
I
dad.
ate it all. I'm not gonna lie, I ate it all.
That's what I missed from doing Halloween. Candy.
So
around.
I've also am working on the second season of Making a Murderer.
That's good. We just finished it 2 nights ago, the second season. Yeah.
Oh man, that's crazy.
It's quality reality type stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. See, it's the quality part you're missing.
Season 1 was 3 years ago, and I've been keeping up to date with the what's been going on with the case, both people. Oh man, yeah, season 2 is good, and there's got to be a season 3. We still don't have an ending.
Well, I mean, I'm not giving anything away. After the end of season 1, I'm like, he's guilty, blah blah blah,
Yeah, I know.
And then after the first episode of the second season, I'm like, wait, there's no way he could do it,
Yeah.
So I mean, it really is push and pull here. It's really cool.
Google his name and his kids, and you're gonna find that they hate him and they think he's guilty and all this. Apparently he's a horrible man. If you just Google some stuff and you'll see the documentary isn't showing all this other stuff.
That's not compelling.
I mean, it's
like,
also unrelated to the case. I mean, a lot of things have gone wrong there.
But it's also, it's like if you like put a camera on me, 24/7, and you can see me cursing just about unit tests and stuff, or how our CPU usage on our database is a Boolean value. It's 0 or it's 100. There's no in between. I mean, it's like,
it's parameter sniffing. Come on.
Probably is.
Pegging the hell out of that thing. Oh man, that was enlightening, Brent.
Troy says he's from Manitowoc, so it's too close to home for him to talk about. Golly.
Yes.
Well, we might as well knock out the technical stuff. Let's see here. Jim asks, hey, y'all, do y'all have any tips or suggestions related to load balancing of SQL servers? We're currently testing putting read-only AGs behind a load balancer, not to use the built-in AG load balancer. What would you prefer? I don't think any of us have put an AG behind a load balancer.
Nope.
I wonder if it's even needed. I mean, are you really needing to load balance your reads? It's not usually something that I'm not even considering load balancing the reads. I might be talking about a completely different architecture of the system if I'm having to go down that route.
And the thing I'd really worry about is, does your load balancer have the ability to run DMV queries to see how overloaded each replica is and then prioritize them? If all it's doing is spraying round robin requests, and I don't know how useful that's going to be, you really have to have some kind of load gauge in there.
I wonder, because inside some SQL, like the whatever CPU DMV, there's like that the node weight and like exactly how much stuff is going on each CPU.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be really interesting if someone could figure out how to get like timely information out of that and balance things on that. But even that, that would be really advanced and really difficult. So I would kind of question the wisdom there of even attempting the load balance. It's like load balance based on what, I guess.
That's hard. Then the other thing you got to think about too is how far behind each replica is.
Yeah.
What happens if the plumbing breaks on one of them? So you also need another diagnostic query to check that, to know when to pull a replica out of the pool.
I mean, if you're just basing it purely on like number of queries, then you're in trouble. If you have like 3 or 4 big queries end up on one, and like a few small queries go through on another, it's not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
Might not.
And why not just go for bigger hardware on the one?
And Lee asks, we've got Windows Server 2016, and you have to install all of the updates. There's no picking and choosing which ones. So if a cumulative update comes out for SQL Server, you cannot stop it from installing. I don't know how to prevent it installing on my production servers. How should I get around doing that?
Does Windows 2016 really do that? It's all or none?
I think it is for Windows, but not for SQL Server for the cumulative updates. But
yeah, I mean, I don't see mine doing that. I have to patch mine manually. Like I have from my whatever Visual Basic Net thing, I have a Windows Server 16 thing on my desktop, and I don't have that same issue. So.
Oh, you know what it is? I bet it's his systems administrators have put it in group policy.
Group policy.
Exactly.
Enforce it.
Yeah.
Your sysadmin
beat
should
them up
have exclusions.
Yeah.
based on server name or.
Ooh, or unplug the Ethernet cable, because then.
There you go. That'll work.
Yeah, that should work.
I don't let SQL Server service packs or cumulative update patches happen on my production servers through some automated process. That is all turned off.
There's a good reason for why, too. Man, this just hit this morning. I'm going to go to SQL Server updates. So we just recently got 2016 Cumulative Update 3 for Service Pack 2. And when you go to read the KB article now at the top, important due to a known issue with a fix.
It's never good when there's a yellow
especially in yellow. You don't see this too often.
It's in red, flashing.
If you use the auditing feature, do not do production deployment of the present CU. If you have deployed already and are hitting any issues, please contact Microsoft support. Whoopsie.
I wouldn't even install it then, even if I'm not. I mean, I don't ever use an auditing feature, but I'm like, nope, unsubscribe.
It's okay, but Tara, look, it says right here, SQL Server CUs are certified to the same level of service packs and should be installed in the same level.
Are they really? I mean, isn't that the whole point of them moving away from service packs is because it took them too much time to test them?
See, that's what I thought, and I think what they really did is they just stopped testing service packs, and that's how they say they're now at the same level. Yeah, just as good. Glenn asks, can I run a SQL Server 2005 database in compatibility mode on a 2014 or newer server?
I mean, for sure not on 2017. I think the lowest on 2017 is 2008. But 2014 maybe, but why? What do you have in there that's going to break it? I mean, can you go up to 2012 compatibility level? Because many people in 2014 have to stick on a lower compatibility level due to cardinality estimator performance issues. I just wonder why you're stuck on 2005. Is it a vendor thing that they're requiring 2005? And if it is, you're not allowed to upgrade SQL Server to 2014 anyway.
Yeah, and what do you call it? 2000. Well, depending if it is a cardinality estimator thing, and you have any control of the code, Microsoft did just add a bunch of use hints that allow you to use the cardinality estimator, or like use the cardinality estimator from like a specific version. That's not helpful to a lot of people because you're either a vendor who controls the code and cares that much and you have to change all your code to use the hints, or you're you and you don't control the vendor code and that just doesn't help you at all.
Ouch. Next up, Matt says, is there a way to capture deadlock chains without tracing or extended events?
Yes.
Since there is. I'll fire it up and you talk about it, Erik.
Yeah, so since I want to say SQL Server 2008, the SQL Server has behind the scenes been running something called the system health extended event. So anything you have to set up and look at. It's not as good as a pre-baked extended event session specifically to capture deadlocks because it doesn't keep a good full history in there. It doesn't persist terribly long. So if you are the type of person who has a lot of stuff going on in that background extended event session, then your deadlock information could very quickly run out of there. There's a perf mode counter that tracks deadlocks, or some counter that tracks deadlocks in there. And there are lots of times when we're with a client and we run SP Blitz, and it's like, wow, you've had like 500 deadlocks a day. But then we go to look at the system health session, and what's kind of unfortunate is that they're all gone from there. It feels like there's other stuff filling that thing up. I wrote, while I was drunk on a plane last year going to pass, a store procedure called SP Blitzlock. And SP Blitzlock will examine either the system health extended event session or if you have your own extended event session spun up to do it, it'll examine that on SQL Server 2012 and up. SQL Server before 2012, the deadlock XML was kind of garbage and not very helpful, but the 2012 and up one is a lot better, has a lot more information in it. So when you go and you look, in there, you can get a whole lot of information about, about deadlocks from there, that XML.
What I like the most out of SP Blitzlock is it gives me an easy way to check the isolation level, because sometimes for clients they're running serializable and they don't even realize it. There's just no concurrency on that. And then second of all, you may be able to quickly see in one of the columns that it's a select versus an update. And I'm like, oh hooray! I get to recommend RCSI. So, if it's between two writes, it's a little bit more challenging. It's almost never between 2 writes, though.
Yeah, sometimes it's tough to get it into. Sometimes it's tough to get stuff into that extended event session. I remember when I was trying to like set up deadlocks to test Blitzlock with, I was like, wait a minute, like I would have to run things like 5 or 6 times before
Really?
it would accurately register and get in there. It's kind of a pain in the butt, man.
Yes.
Was it just not in the system health session yet?
Yeah, it just like it took a while to flush out to there from wherever it lives, and sometimes it like took a few tries before it would go in there. It's a whole
That's probably what Brent's experiencing.
Yes.
You need to do it 10 more times.
Either that or Brent's most recent pull request to remove columns broke everything.
It's very possible.
Maybe as a system health disabled.
It's anything is possible on my crappy system. So for y'all who are watching the video or watching it live, what I'm doing is I'm reproducing deadlocks like crazy, and then in an effort to show SP Blitzlock, showing it in the history, and yes!
There, finally.
All right, thank God.
And there they all are, too.
Yeah, they all go in at once. It takes me a while to flush out. It's aggravating as hell.
Unbelievable.
That makes me suspicious about extended event sessions. What kind of delay is happening there? Is it just due to volume? You know, because there's no load here.
No, it's just it takes a little while for stuff to like just make it into the session, like for the XML to refresh or whatever. It's sort of like how like when you go and look at the CPU usage in system
ring
health,
buffers.
how like it's like the ring buffer. It's like every minute, but it doesn't.
Oh, true.
Sometimes it's like 5 minutes behind, and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
CPU.
Yeah, so that's really slick. You don't have to turn anything on to get it. It's already built in by default 2012 and newer, so very slick stuff.
So it gives you all that deadlock info up top, tells you kind of where the transaction is. Down the bottom, we try to do some like metadata analysis and tell you like which store procedures, tables, indexes, like you have the most stuff happening in. Give you commands with blitzcache and blitzindex to take a closer look at those, maybe see, oh, there's an index missing, I need to do something else, or something weird in the query plan. Who knows? I don't know. I was drunk on a plane when I wrote that. I was weird.
And it works pretty well.
Yeah. I was thinking I'm going to be really helpful if I'm going to be drunk on a plane, and here I are with this.
Those first-class Brent Ozar cross-country flights.
Yeah, like when you can really stretch that back.
That's why we try to only fly first class, because we just end up getting drunk on planes and writing T-SQL that y'all can use. Woo! So it's kind of like a tax write-off.
You're welcome.
Mike pipes in with, he just wanted to say that the first responder kit with the Power BI piece has been great for recording and validating app query issues. Keep up the good work. Oh, great. Glad you like it. Jim says, our blocking monitor occasionally shows system processes blocking each other. It shorted, oh God, I got to read these before I start talking. It started shortly after we introduced Service Broker. How can I troubleshoot to see if the blocking is coming from the activation proc we're using in Service Broker?
Don't use Service Broker.
Yeah.
Problem fixed.
A+.
Just fix the blocking monitor. Do you care that 2 system processes are blocking each other? It's going to resolve itself. I mean, so just fix the blocking monitor to exclude blocking between SPIDs less than 50.
Makes perfect sense. Pablo says, what does it mean when I look in the system or in the plan cache and there are executions, but some of them show the SQL text as empty?
SQL text. I mean, the execution plan might be missing if you're using Blitzcache, but the SQL text is never empty for us. So maybe you need to use a better tool.
Yeah, right. So when I've seen that happen, it's been like encrypted procs, or sometimes what's a real son of a gun about it is if there's restricted stuff in there like passwords, sometimes SQL Server screens that stuff out.
But just a portion of the query, right? Not the entire query.
But if that's all the query is, who knows? I mean,
like one state.
I don't know what these crazy people do with their SQL servers.
Use SP Blitzcache and see if it happens there.
That would be my vote too.
Yeah, they use Service Broker on.
Yes.
Let's see. Next up, I swear I'm gonna start reading these questions first. Okay, all right, I'll take this one.
Say that every week.
I won't take it. Jeremy asks, is there a best practice for what user should own databases?
SA.
And why? Why SA?
I don't even remember the reason anymore, but I know that I've encountered an issue with .NET CLR objects when the owner was not SA and we moved servers and something happened there. And it's just SA fixes everything. Job owners and database owners. Even if you don't use SA, they count SA. Have SA be the owner.
Yeah, I mean it's not a big deal like if you have an agent job owned by someone else and then like that account gets disabled and it might stop working or whatever. But for me it's just that like if someone else owns, like if there's a different user owns a database, then they have all the SA level privs on there. I might not want that. I might not want that person to own the database just because like they happen to restore it that day. So I just like to keep everything under SA.
Jim follows up with, I know y'all don't like Service Broker and you recommend not to use it, but do you have another suggestion to handle asynchronous processing? We're using Service Broker to do asynchronous data processing instead of triggers. Richie, how do you like doing asynchronous data processing?
In the cloud.
The cloud. And do you do it in a relational database or where do you do it?
I do because Brent told me I had to.
No, you don't. You use a queue. No, we're really, Service Broker is a queue, right? And
yeah.
We're totally down with queues. We just don't like doing them in your $7,000 a core relational database.
Yeah, and there's a lot of free open source queuing systems out there, and just bowl and process.
I've worked with a lot of Java developers who love Tibco for queuing.
What was the one that Jeremiah used to like, RabbitMQ?
Yeah, Rabbit.
Yeah. Let's see, Marvel asks, we're looking at implementing compression on some of our largest databases. However, I can't find information on which level is compression is best. The clearest article I found is this one article that tries to tell me when to use row or when to use page. Really, the easy thing to do there is just test. There are stored procedures you can use to test, and what they do is they create a compressed copy of the table over in TempDB, so then you can check and see which one is better for you.
And it's built in, and there are some handy scripts that can help you interpret that data too. I forget who the person was, though, but it's a female that's got a really good script.
I forget.
Too many years since I've looked at it.
Yes.
Erica Darling?
No,
maybe Michelle Uppard. I can't remember, though.
Could have been.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about, too. It's a shame that SQL Blog isn't really such a thing anymore because Lynchy Shea used to have a bunch of great posts on compression about like how it affected like reads versus writes and like you have to go to like archive.org to try and track it down. It's a pain. If you just go to the website, it's like login failed or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. But yeah, it might not even be up there anymore. Like it's.
Yeah, but you're right.
Search results.
But
yeah.
Wow.
If you go to archive.org, you can track old copies of them down. But those posts were great. And these days, though, if I'm looking at, if I'm seriously thinking about tables that really, really extra need compression, then I'm considering column store because the compression is so much better than page or row compression. But there's just as many gotchas and guidelines to follow there too.
But not for OLTP systems, right? Or at least a table that has lots of changes happening.
Yeah. I mean, you can make an argument for throwing a non-clustered column store index on there, and just like a place where maintenance actually matters with column store indexes, and then like just performing fairly regular maintenance on it. But if you're talking about like clustered column store, then it's kind of a whole different ballgame. I would avoid that for OLTP. Would not be your friend.
Thomas says, sometimes when I click on the properties of my database, it shows the space available as being something I am not comfortable with, like only 4 gigs. However, there's a ton of space available on the hard drive. So he shows not a lot of space in the database, lots of space available on the hard drive. Should I be concerned?
Leave it alone, it'll grow.
Just like that.
I like that too. I mean, I've always just let autogrowths just kick in as long as I have instant file initialization in place for the data files. I know that some people, some DBAs have scripted this out though. They'll check for free space, and if it's below their threshold, they automatically, later on during a low period of the day, they'll autogrow, not autogrow, they will grow out that file to have additional space, but that's too much work. I don't care about autogrowths happening during the day as long as I have instant file initialization enabled, and the autogrows are for the data files.
Yeah, I mean the one thing that one place where I do care about that is with log files because they don't get instant file initialization. So those ones like I'm okay with having empty space in and like growing those out a little bit further than maybe, some people would want. Some like to like some percentage size of the database just to make sure that I'm not waiting on those things to grow in zero out space, because who knows? So you set that to 1%. The bigger your file gets, the bigger that percent gets, the bigger that growth gets, the more zeros you have to write. Stuff waits around. It sucks. It's not fun. So log files, grow them out.
Gus says, what's the best way to reindex on an always-on availability group database without running out of space on the transaction log?
I thought for sure you were going to skip that question because we're just going to make fun of the question.
It's great. I love it. I love it.
Oh,
It's
I'm
great.
not going to answer it.
So you can't, like, rebuilding an index is a logged operation, and it's not like you get the choices to do it in small phases. It's a big hunkin' transaction. So if you have, say, the classic examples, we had one client who had large databases, but almost all the databases one table. It was like a big, say you'd have a 1 terabyte database, but 800 gigs of it would just be in one table. Man, you want to rebuild that thing, you better buckle up and take some time. It's gonna be a while. And it's going to need the whole space in the transaction log, so if something goes wrong, you got to be able to roll back.
TempDB is going to suffer. Everything's going to suffer. A lot of people will just not do that kind of maintenance on an AG anymore just because it gets so difficult. And it's not like you have the option to switch the database into like simple or bulk logged and then run it and then like, just not deal with that. But like that doesn't even help that much because you're doing it all in one go. But AGs, so you can't do that with an AG anyway. I don't know. The whole thing is just rough, like not fun. And when you own an AG, you have to change the way that you think about the way you do things with data. And it's not just index rebuilds, like doing large modifications. You have to start batching things really, really smartly if you're going to use an AG, not try to update entire tables at once or insert a bajillion rows all at once. You have to change the way that you handle and manage data, because if those things fall behind, they get very, very unhappy. Very unhappy.
Theoretically, there's a new feature out in SQL Server 2019 and in Azure that will help you with that. I don't know if it works in always-on availability groups or not yet, but it's accelerated database recovery.
It works with everything, according to my friend who did stuff.
Yes, I like that. You can sign up for the preview now. It's available in the 2019 preview. You just need a magic secret, I would guess, trace flag in order to turn on.
Memory bit.
Memory bit. The debugger. Yeah, how's it called?
Hold a magnet next to this part of your...
Just flip the debugger. How hard can it be?
And to follow up a little bit on Thomas's thing about the index rebuilds, it's like you better be solving a really, really serious problem with that index rebuild that you can't solve with something a little bit easier on the server, like update stats, or even like a reorg or something if it's a smaller table, because reorgs will choke on big tables. But I would make sure that I'm solving a really, really big problem if I'm taking that much of a chance with my AG falling behind or tipping over or whatever else awful things happen when you throw the smallest grain of sand into the cogs of an AG.
Yeah. Let's see here. Gus says, follows up with, do sort results in TempDB help with the space on transaction log? Not at all, unfortunately.
Nope. It does help with the space that you would need in the data file to sort the results, but it does not help with the logging of the transaction.
And then Thomas asks, sometimes I run SP Blitz cache and I get a divide by zero error. Any thoughts there?
Yes.
Don't do that.
Use the latest version where that error was fixed.
Again, probably. We fix a lot of stuff. I mean, holy cow, we have a lot that goes through that first responder kit. It's insane how fast we rip through fixes in there.
Well, I think it's all the unit tests you have in against those things. You just pick up and figure
catch so many things.
User tests. You people are our units, and you test things in units for us. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. But stuff like this, it just makes you really, really just kind of like paranoid about like when you need to start being more defensive in the way that you write code. Anytime there's division, make sure you have some protection on that divider side about zeros. If you're using like substring, be really careful about when you might have a negative value passed in, that'll make that throw an error. Set yourself up with some protection there, so that you don't just run into these crazy ephemeral errors that are impossible to reproduce. it's hard, or like even like conjure up, like to think like, well, what bad thing could happen here? Because like the error he's talking about was when I added stuff to look at compile memory for a query plan, and I was like, there's no way anyone can have 0 compile memory. It's impossible. You can't possibly have 0 memory to compile a plan with. But you people found a way.
Managed to pull it off.
4 gig of
And that's
RAM.
when Erik earned his senior developer wings.
People are creative. All right, well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us this week at Office Hours, and next week will be weird. Next week is the PASS Summit. We'll see if Richie and Tara are around to see if they want to do one. I think Eric's going to be in flight, so we're running around Seattle. I'll be out in Seattle attending the summit. So
I don't know if I can say where I'm going to be on Wednesday. Is it public knowledge yet?
That means I don't know where you're going to be on. Oh no, yeah, sure.
So the lovely Claudia Coleman from Quest has sponsored a book signing. So she's actually bought the first and only copy of my book, and she bought a bunch of those. So I'm going to be sitting in the vendor hall signing those. So if you're at PASS and you're too cheap to spend $30 on my book from Amazon, you can get a free copy with my signature if you want it. No selfies, but you can get a signature and a copy of the book for free.
No selfies. What are you, Erica?
You have a selfie. No. It is a requirement that you take a selfie with Erik.
Yeah.
You have to take a selfie.
I will punch you if you selfie anywhere in my general area.
You know what you do is that if he won't take a selfie with you, then you just kind of angle your way out as you're walking back with the book.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to wear my Richie mask so no one recognizes me.
Horrifying. Just straight horrifying. That is not attractive.
Yeah. Yes. Good times.
That will be us next week. So see y'all later. Adios.
Goodbye.